famous yeshiva that was based in Jerusalem called the Yeshivat Bet Yaakov Pereira. Really famous yeshiva over here. Now it's a special edition because usually we're speaking about different great rabbis from Oriental countries of yesteryear. So now we're going to try also to, let's just say, explore which what were these yeshivot that they were learning in, which places. Many of these great rabbis we've mentioned various different yeshivot, but we haven't actually spoken about the yeshiva itself. So this will give us, let's say, a better understanding about the Talmidim, about the students and the great rabbis we're speaking about. So it was called Yeshivat Bet Yaakov, or Pereira, as you can say it. It was a longer standing yeshiva in Jerusalem. It's reported of it was built, I think it started in the year 1691, pretty much till the start of the 20th century. It was started by the famous philanthropist, a great man, Rabbi Yaakov Pereira of Amsterdam, very great rabbi, and very much had huge influence within regards to the Pri Chadash. His name was Rav Hezkiah de Silva, another great rabbi we've spoken about various occasions before. This yeshiva itself would go on to become one of the most Torah important institutions in Jerusalem, especially during the very late 17th, the heart of the 18th century, and very so on and so forth. And many of the greatest sages of Jerusalem would actually learn inside the yeshiva. Now, the Rosh Yeshivot we're going to explore with regard to that in a few minutes. It would include the Pri Chadash, as I mentioned before, Rabbi Yaakov Morcho, Rabbi Abraham Yitzchaki, Rabbi Eliezer Nachum, who would be a Rishon LeZion, Rabbi Raphael Miuchas, Rabbi Yitzchak Kobo, Rabbi Abraham Ashkenazi, who was another, I think, Rishon LeZion chief rabbi. There's Rabbi Yisrael Meir Mizrahi and Rabbi Yosef Yom Tov Miuchas. So some of the great rabbis who become Rosh Yeshiva of this institution in of itself. Now, I think it was some years before. It was the Pri Chadash, Rabbi Hezkiah de Silva, was sent by his rabbi, Rabbi Moshe Gananti, one of the famous rabbis of Jerusalem, on a mission to travel around Western Europe, various different countries, as a Shluchei D'Rabbanan, a rabbinic emissary over here, to collect funds for the Jewish community. Okay, sorry, the connection just went over there. He would stop in Amsterdam and meet the famous rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov Pereira over there, who was a famous, let's say, a benefactor, donating much money to various different charitable causes. And in Amsterdam, helping out in Amsterdam, Netherlands, also over the land of Israel over here. Now, Rabbi Yaakov Pereira was the son of Rabbi Abraham Pereira, who was, I think, had been expelled from Spain. The family had originally. This is what it was stated over. And he founded a yeshiva called Chesed LaAbraham that was based in the city of Hebron. Remember, Hebron is one of the 4 holy cities of Israel. That was headed, I think, in its day by Rabbi Avram Yisrael Zivi, another great rabbi. I think we've just mentioned about him recently over there. And after his father passed away, I think towards the end of the 1600s, his son Yaakov increased yeshiva support and expanded it over there. Since then, yeshiva had been called Chesed LaAbraham Ve'emet LeYaakov. That's what I believe it was called. And then the new rabbi at the point in time would suggest to the rabbi that there'll be an establishment of a similar yeshiva in Jerusalem, where the great rabbis of Jerusalem can teach and can learn, and it will be named after him. So it's actually interesting. So I think it was pretty much the early 1900s this yeshiva would stand, and it was, I think there was also another similar yeshiva in Jerusalem called, or another old yeshiva in Jerusalem called the Beit Yaakov Vika, which was founded by Rav Avram Vika of Livorno of Italy, respectively. And so those two, I don't know if they can be confused so much or not, but this yeshiva ended up becoming absolutely outstanding. And remember, many of the rabbis we're going to speak about that actually learned there would actually become some of the most famous rabbis, especially in the 17th, the 18th, and the 19th century. Now, I believe it was established in the year 1691, if I'm not mistaken. I think, to be precise, on the 5th of Elul, which is just before Tishrei, the 12th month of the year. And it was Rabbi Yaakov Pereira would deposit over there 20,000 florins, a special fund. That's 20,000 florins in this special fund, and would establish for this purpose like an entrusted management, the leaders of the congregation of Amsterdam, he appointed a new Rosh Yeshiva over there, head of the yeshiva, and established various different regulations of the yeshiva. And this Rosh Yeshiva was immediately given a sum report level of 800 florins to maintain the yeshiva for the first year alone. And there will be additional amounts, let's say, for purchasing various different equipment, such as furniture, and there was books for the yeshiva. And several years later, the funds did increase, obviously with the astounding reputation in the place, and it was determined that a certain amount from it would be sent to the Chesed L'Avram Ve'emet Yaakov Yeshiva. So there were two very much connected yeshiva, and that one was based in Hebron naturally over here. So they were very much connected together. Come with the year, I think 1695. This is really a few years after it was established. The first Rosh Yeshiva, the Pri Chadash, we mentioned about before, sadly passed away. Rabbi Yaakov Pereira consulted other great rabbis of Jerusalem at that point in time and appoint Rabbi Yaakov Molcho as a Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Yaakov Molcho. At the same time, he would open a new department in the yeshiva, and there was more and more success for the yeshiva itself. Now, it's actually interesting. So the greatest sages of Jerusalem to learn inside this amazing yeshiva, including Rav Abraham Yitzchaki, who was after Rav Molcho. I think between the years, I think till 1729, if I'm not mistaken, but I have to double check that. He would also go on, Rav Yitzchaki, to become a Rishon LeZion also of his day, which is very prominent positions. Also, Rabbi Eliezer Nachum, and that's Rabbi I spoke about before, he passed away, I think, in the year 1745. He would be a Rosh Yeshiva for a point in time, and then once again be a Rishon LeZion. So you can see these two, the Yeshiva and the Rishon LeZion positions, were very much connected together. Then there was Rabbi Yitzchak HaKohen Rappaport, to be the next Rosh Yeshiva over there, and would end, let's just say, his tenure would end with the Rishon LeZion status. I think he would be the first Ashkenazi chief rabbi of Israel, if I'm not mistaken, or of origin, respectively. Then there was Rabbi Raphael Miyuchas, was son of Rabbi Shmuel Miyuchas. He passed away in 1771. He would become the next one. That was followed by Rabbi Yitzchak Kobo, another great rabbi who passed away in 1854. He lived about, if I'm not mistaken, approximately 84 years. He was also the head Rosh Yeshiva of Knesset Yisrael also. And then Rabbi Avram Ashkenazi, who lived till the year 1880, would have a tenure being the Rosh Yeshiva of this brilliant yeshiva. And I think it was followed by Rabbi Yisrael Meir Mizrahi, who was author of the responsa to the Pri Ha'eretz, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I think Rabbi Yosef Yom Tov, the son of Rabbi Raphael Miyuchas, authored a book called the Me'ei Ba'ar, which includes, let's say, various different novels innovated from the Beit Midrash of Bet Yaakov, respectively. Now, it's reported over there will be three large, let's just say, rooms to this yeshiva. One was a very large Beit Midrash. There was a second room, which was a more smaller Beit Midrash, and a third room, which was like more of a book depository. And that was located maybe a form of a library or something. For example, large Beit Midrash was known as a Haskar, if I'm not mistaken. Consists of various different important people over there were teaching there, including the Rosh Yeshiva. I think there were various different great Torah scholars there, teachers, educators over there. They would learn halacha, they would study Gemara over there, and especially in the morning, afternoons, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe in the month of Tishrei and Nisan, there would be time off in the yeshiva, and that would give them an opportunity, the Talmidim, to actually write their various different teachings and novelties that they had learned. The small Beit Midrash was various different students were there, and I don't know if it was financially connected to the main yeshiva in of its own right, but there was various different students over there. I think those students wouldn't necessarily be the full-time students or the ones receiving allowances and stuff like that, but it was once again an important place. And there was a library, which we said that before, where students would be allowed to borrow books over there from the room. They had to register, I think, in a special registrar, and there would be various different important things, and it was very important. These books in themselves, it was, I think, a Talmid Chacham of the yeshiva was appointed by the yeshiva administrators, maybe to look after this. There were various different regulations inside the yeshiva, and I think it was written, these initial regulations, by Rabbi Yaakov Pereira himself, with regards to how to form a Rosh Yeshiva, how to appoint one, dealt with different issues facing the yeshiva over there. What authority the yeshiva head had, the method of study, what way we're going to learn, the times of study, the number of rooms and distributions, what allowances people would have. and various other issues they had to grapple with was actually spoken about in this famous yeshiva. Let's explore some of the famous rabbis that learned here also. There were famous rabbis that studied here. Also learning there was, including Rabbi Yonah Navon, who passed away in 1892. He was a famous rabbi. Now another great rabbi that learned here was a Chida, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulai, the great Moroccan rabbis of his time. And he would actually study, I think, at the time under Rabbi Yitzhak HaKohen Rappaport. Then there was Rabbi Nisim Chaim Moshe Mizrahi, who passed away in 1949. He was another notable student. Another one was Rabbi Yisrael Meir Mizrahi, younger brother of Rabbi Nisim, who would serve as Rosh Yeshiva in the later years. Rabbi Mansour Marzuk, who passed away in 1883, was, I think, also the Rabbi of Aram Tzova and Jerusalem. And he was the author of the book called Korban Elitzur. Then there was Rabbi Avram ben Rabbi Shmuel Miyuchas, the brother of the Rishon LeZion, the chief rabbi, Rav Raphael Miyuchas. Another famous student was Rav Yonah Moshe Navon, who passed away in 1871. So you can see this yeshiva had great teachers over there, and they also had great students, and it was a place, probably one of the most famous yeshivot in Jerusalem over the last few hundred years, without a doubt. Very interesting. So it's always good to find out the history of where the rabbis actually learned it over here. So it's a special edition over here. We've already related videos about more than 900 rabbis in this series. Absolute phenomenal achievement. And friends, we're a community. We love learning about the great rabbis of yesterday. Yeah, we've covered 900. If you haven't descend from any of the great rabbis we're speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more. If you think anyone's interested in watching these videos, share it to other people. These great videos also. And if you yourself have not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button now and subscribe to the channel. Wish you all a great day. Take care and be